Being in the middle is one of the most dangerous places that someone can be. In this video, I want to dive in and talk a little bit about the identity trap of being in the middle. And that can be financially, emotionally, physically, in your confidence, in your identity, your fitness, your career, your relationships. It can apply to so many things, but the truth of the matter is most of us live our lives in that middle zone. Not unhappy enough or desperate enough to change, but also not fulfilled and stable enough for us to want to continue to grow. And when you can break yourself out of being in the middle, that's where everything begins to change. And I'm going to share how I know that from experience. For me, where I find that I'm stuck in the middle, aside from being a middle child, which I'll always be, it was my financial standing. I grew up in a middle class family, in a family business that did just well enough to put food on our table and get me a new pair of sneakers for basketball season and that kind of stuff. But I was never able to have all the nice holiday presents and birthday presents that all of my friends around me were capable or could afford to get. And so I grew up right in that financial middle zone, financially comfortable, but a little bit more limited. I wasn't wealthy, I wasn't struggling, and that comfort started to become a cage for me. It led to so much comparison, so much maybe envy, and at the same time, I knew that I had to feel some level of gratitude for what I did have. But this isn't just about money in this video. It's about so much more. I've also been stuck in the middle with my confidence, with my physical fitness, even with my identity, my ambition, and being able to break out of that middle zone in my life time and time again is in a large way why I coach what I coach today and why I help the people that I help. So just to clarify this concept, what the middle actually is, it's not just a socioeconomic state, right? It's actually a psychological state. It's this feeling like there's not enough pain in my life to change, but I'm not experiencing enough grand success to feel momentum. So you just start to feel fine and a little bit content, but not really fulfilled. You don't have this heavy pressure weighing down on you, but you also don't really have the clarity without that pressure to think, oh, here's where I want to go and here's the urgency to get there. So, that leaves you in limbo, comfortable yet restless. And without that urgency, that identity, that conviction, that fire inside of you, the middle is just a psychological dead zone. And it's where a lot of the parts of yourself and your identity just start to go neutral. And that is draining. So how you might know if you're stuck in the middle, beyond if something that I said already resonated with you, you might feel like you're so much capable of more. And maybe you know how to implement some of the things that you know how to do or what you're capable of, but you don't find yourself taking action. And so maybe you're just kind of maintaining that current identity because you're like, well, this is pretty good. People have less than me and it's good enough. And you kind of have those moments of rationalization as to why you're not taking action more, why you're not being more disciplined, why don't I have more motivation to go and get somewhere. And with that rationalization also comes the avoidance of discomfort, risk, exposure, rejection. Because why should you go through all that? You're kind of doing okay. And so that leads you to not investing in yourself, financially, emotionally, with your time, not really playing offense for yourself and creating the life that you want by design. And where that leads you is contemplating why you're not taking action, thinking of all the things that you're capable of and not doing. And so you overthink and overanalyze, but never act. And the cycle just continues down this path of, well, I could do this, and this. And I'm glad that I'm not in this position because fuck that. But shit, maybe I'd be better off because then I'd really push for that. But you don't. Because the truth of the matter is you're just not demanding excellence of yourself because the comfortability of where you are is good enough. And so for me, growing up kind of in that financially middle environment, it meant I never saw true risk. I knew where my next meal was coming from. I knew I could go and have a bed to sleep on at night, have clothes on my back. What I also didn't see is any investing or any amount of expansion or optimization through the use of money, whether it's hiring cleaners, hiring people to do the leaves, all these things that most wealthy people outsource because it's just not worth their time. So I never saw that expanded world where time was actually more valuable rather than money being the most valuable, scarce resource that there is. And that led to my relationship with money being one of scarcity rather than abundance as well. But where this also could apply is in fitness, being just kind of naturally average. I mean, in height, I'm tall. I'm above average. I'm 6'6". Right now, I'm around 220, but I'm right in that average zone. And you look at me and okay, he's in okay shape. So I'm like right in the middle to where I can pass by, but I had never really developed the urgency to build confidence physically and build a demanding presence. And I think part of that is tied to identity. And peeling back the curtain here right now, like that is something that I've continued to struggle with throughout my whole life. I was always the guy at the pool, never took his shirt off, always self-conscious of my body. How this played into my confidence is I was never overly bullied or anything like that, but I also wasn't admired. I was just kind of unnoticed enough to stay safe and stay in my own head, honestly. That led to not really having any relationships with girls or not feeling confident enough to go and talk to girls because all of my more social friends or more noticed friends kind of had that in the bag. And the combination of all of those things, just feeling stuck, just feeling so average, left me not really taking action in any direction. So I just want to say, if any of this is resonating so far and you feel like you understand exactly where I'm coming from and I'm speaking to your current or previous experiences, then go ahead and tap the subscribe button because it means that hopefully you can relate to a lot of the other content that I put out there. But also in this next section, I want to give you the exact shifts that helped me break out of this middle zone that I'm talking about. I hope that it will give you some clarity on exactly how to shift your perspective to do the same as I've done. So ultimately, what's required to break out of this zone is nothing more than an identity shift. Really what it takes is you need to restructure your entire identity, the way that you see yourself, the way that you think others see you. You need to start to minimize the importance of that. But the reason why this matters is your identity must 100% has to be upgraded before you can expect any of your behavior to change. And you might be sitting there right now thinking, oh, I want to be this, this, and this. And these are all the things that I'm eventually going to become and get to. And then I'll start acting like this, this, and this once I achieve that. All of that's just being pushed out in the future. And that's keeping you exactly where you are. So you have to decide who you are right now before deciding who you want to be or even what to do. The identity has to precede the action. Most people have it backwards. They think if I just start stumbling my way through, relying on some discipline, trying to build motivation to go to the gym, and eventually I'll be a fitness fucking guru. No, the identity has to come first. I am a committed exerciser. That is who I am. Therefore, today I go to the gym. And I go again tomorrow. Because with that type of identity, that totally shatters any middle zone. I am a committed exerciser. Well, what would it look like to be in the middle of that? Well, you're either not committed or you are committed. You either don't go to the gym at the frequency that you tell yourself or you do. So that binary allows you to be super crystal clear on, are you achieving the things that you tell yourself you're going to achieve? And that's kind of where discipline comes in. You do those things repeatedly enough to then build the inner confidence that you're capable of continuing to do those things. That turns into motivation. If you want to learn more about my performance freedom engine, I'll leave that somewhere below or maybe at the end of this video. But in a similar vein as that, once you build that internal clarity and you set that binary and you know I'm doing it or I'm not, what that does is that creates a level of energy, a level of motivation, one might say, of, wow, I'm crystal clear on exactly what I know I need to do. That now I feel like I have a lot more energy to go and do that thing. And that energy reinforces your alignment with the identity that you've now set for yourself. Think of it as homework assignment, writing an essay. If I told you, hey, this chapter needs to be about this topic, write this here, write that there, write that there, you probably would be like, oh shit, let me sit down, type, done, right? But if I said, hey, go and write me a 5-page paper about blank, that's it. And that's all I gave you. You'd probably be a little slow to start because you don't have that clarity to know, boom, that's what I'm doing. Or if you're a carpenter right? And you have to build a structure of some sort. And I said, hey, here's all the lumber. It has to look like this at the end. You'd be like, all right, well, how do I do this and then that? But if I said, hey, here's the lumber and here's a SketchUp of each of the sized pieces and here's how you, and I gave you the blueprint. Well, then you'd say, oh, well, cool, this is exciting. It's like a little art project. Boom, 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 like an IKEA dresser, right? Although those can be a fucking pain in the ass sometimes. But what that sets the precedent for is that you need to be able to build an identity with some level of direction, not just this kind of overall drift of slowly becoming something. No, you have to be it now. You have to have the direction of this is how I'm going to be a committed exerciser. This is how I'm going to be a 7-figure entrepreneur because that's who I am. And therefore, these are the actions that I take. That gets you out of the middle entirely. So now that you know the premise of exactly what's required to break out of this on an identity level, I want to share with you a few of my frameworks that I implement with my clients and that I've implemented for myself to tangibly create this path forward. The third one I already mentioned, which is the Performance Freedom Engine. What that does is that helps you really rewire and turn that newfound identity into the proper behaviors through the framework that you can go and check out in that video. Working our way back, the second component is my flow state formula. And what that does is that revolves around how do you find momentum? How do you take something that you want to achieve and be able to do it frictionlessly? How do you engage in flow on command and say, here's the activity or here's the habit that I'm going to do, here's how I'm going to pursue it, eliminating all that friction. And that gives you more energy as well. Where that energy also comes from is the first framework that I work through with clients, which is my clarity stack. And the 3 components of the clarity stack are, first, your internal operating system being upgraded. And that iOS that you're upgrading, that embodies a lot of your identity, that embodies the way that you perceive yourself, and a number of other things which I've explained in a different video. The next layer of the clarity stack, if you think of it as a little tech stack for optimizing your environment, your life, your identity. The second one is cognitive ergonomics. Now that's getting really tangible on, well, I'm going to be a committed exerciser. What does that mean? Well, how does my mind interact with my devices, my phone, my physical environment? Maybe if I lay my clothes out the night before and I put my shoes here and then maybe even stack some habits to where my phone goes in my gym bag. So before I can even touch my phone for the day, I have to go to my gym bag and have that visual cue of, well, shit, I should be going to the gym. All right, pick your bag up, go to the gym. Or consciously tell yourself, nah, I'm a piece of shit. I'm not going to listen to myself and let me grab my phone and go sit on the couch, right? So that's understanding how does your cognitive style fluctuate based on your physical environment. The third layer of the stack that leads into the flow state formula, as I mentioned, is performance circuitry. That's really understanding how do you now recharge properly, understand your circadian rhythms, your ultradian rhythms, be more productive, and really perform and build that wiring to where you can sustain a level of performance over a period of time. So one thing to remember that ties this all together, you don't just escape the middle by doing more and trying to crawl your way out of a scenario without really any intention. You escape the middle by becoming someone that doesn't tolerate the middle, that doesn't acknowledge that it exists and that you're willing to exist in that zone. So now to just share on a little bit of a deeper level, my personal breakouts, my lived examples of how I broke out of this and how I continue to break out of this in a lot of different aspects. First off, the financial middle. And I think that's the one that's pressing for most of us, is just feeling like we're stuck there, wanting so much more, wanting to provide for our families, our friends, ourselves, but not really feeling the urgency to get there because, well, we have a little bit of a nest egg, we can pay our bills for a few months. Well, the financial identity shift comes from acknowledging and understanding the tendencies of a scarcity mindset and giving yourself the permission to earn more and that you might deserve more and that more is out there if you just let it flow to you. That changes everything, because now you don't start to view finances as this unachievable energy, right? Money isn't just this aura of something out there that so many other people have so much of that you just won't have. No, it's an abundant resource. It's an energy that can flow to you if you wire yourself in the right way to be able to accept it. And a lot of that comes from giving yourself permission to be able to have a shit ton of money. Because quite honestly, for a lot of people in the middle class, or especially the lower class, we're taught to villainize money. We're taught to villainize the people that have billions of dollars, millions of dollars, as if they're doing something wrong by having that. Well, that's not going to really allow us to be open to getting there. Even if consciously you might say you want it, subconsciously there's something that's pulling you away from that. And what that looked like for me is just really embodying the mindset of not hoarding money. If I can see a return either in my time or in opportunity or anything else, I wasn't going to let money stop me from growing. And that meant me investing in my first coach, or investing in more books or more courses, better equipment for myself, no matter what it was, right? The more you can put money in place of thoughts of fear, scarcity, right? If there's something that you want to be better at, there's no better way to hold yourself accountable to it than to invest money into it. Because if you already have a scarce mindset, you're going to be damn sure that where you put your money, you're going to follow that up with some action. And so rather than hoarding onto it as if it goes away, your life is over, well, chances are it's probably still going to be sitting in your bank account 6 months from now if you don't touch it, if you're in the position that I was in. So by investing into certain things and letting it flow, it opens up more opportunity to flow into you. And that's in my different video about my energy quadrants, where you can learn about how to interface with that. But going on to the next level for me, which was the fitness, being kind of just average, I had to decide really, who do I want to be physically? And maybe that doesn't mean I have a shredded six-pack or all these things, but do I want to be someone that's okay skipping days in the gym and feeling aches and pains and all these things? Or do I need to now tell myself, like I said before, I'm a committed exerciser. I go to the gym X amount of days per week. I don't skip. It's okay if I suck, but I will not skip. Which means if you want to go and suck and get into the gym, get your feet in there, be there for 20 minutes instead of 45 or an hour or whatever it is for you, go and do that thing, suck at it for a day, and then get back to it the next day and try to give it your all the next day. But do not skip. And that comes through the identity statement of, I am someone that does not skip the gym. I do not do this. I am XYZ, right? Those I am statements are incredibly important when it comes to identity, because it reinforces our present tense identity. I am, not I will be, or I have a resolution come 2026 that I'm going to start doing this. Well, if you're going to say you're going to start doing that in now, at this point, 3 weeks from now, depending on when you watch this, why not just do it now? Otherwise, you're just continuing to use future tense language. Now, another area for me that was huge, especially coming out of college, was confidence. For me, I was super quiet. I wouldn't go out, not really outgoing, just kind of a neutral identity around who I was. And some of that maybe came through ego disguised as humility of, oh, I don't want to be an arrogant prick, and so therefore I'm just going to minimize myself. I don't want to offend anyone, or I don't want to get rejected by a girl, really. That's what my subconscious was directing me towards, is withholding as a fear of rejection or any of those things. And so that left me just kind of floating through life, really. But once I learned to step into more of a presence of being a leader and knowing that I'm capable and having more self-efficacy, that allowed me to get myself out of the middle, put myself out there, go and socialize, and know that I had value to bring to others. And going through that transformation has been one of the most critical things of anything. And in a big way, I've talked about this before, I could credit, honestly, going and getting a retail job coming out of college, being somewhat antisocial, a self-proclaimed introvert, going and getting a retail job where I was forced to interact with people. And it was at Lululemon, which meant that I was forced to interact with a lot of females. And I think that in a big way that allowed me to expose myself to the repetitions of just letting loose and just being myself. And part of that conviction came from knowing that I was really good at selling leggings. Just kidding. I was really good at selling the clothing, knowing the product, connecting with people. that effort, that action compounded into more and more confidence. Each of these breakthroughs in all of these different realms, it required me to first choose the identity that I needed to embody in the present tense to be the version of myself that I knew I was capable of. And so as we head into this new year, if you're someone that knows you need to break out of the middle, first start by defining who are you heading into 2026. Not who do I want to become, not who will I be once this date or time comes around. Define who you are as you frame your mind into coming into this new year, because again, use confirmation bias to your favor. Who you start telling yourself you are now, your mind, your actions will begin to prove yourself right. So once you've now decided who you are starting today, you need to remove all of these low-grade stressors in your life that you've accepted as normal. Anything that you feel lingering that kind of weighs you down, that you're just like, well, this is how it is and I've just learned to accept it. Eliminate that shit. Murder them. Now, once you've done that, another really great way to shift everything is change your environment. We are creatures of association. Our brain habitually creates patterns based on what we're familiar with. And so another big factor of me elevating into a new version of myself was moving from Philadelphia to Miami, where I kind of had that blank slate, that fresh canvas to set up my apartment intentionally, recreate how I interacted with my space. I came from a family of a lot of clutter, which led to mental clutter, right? If you live in a messy environment, that exacerbates the problem tenfold. So clean your environment, change your environment. Maybe if you're someone that works from home, start working from a shared office space or even a coffee shop. This leads me to constraint design, is what I call it, which really is short for creating intentional discomfort and constraints around your environment. And you're doing this with purpose so that you can funnel yourself towards desired habits or away from less desired habits. So constraint design is extremely important, and creating an environment or architecting your environment in a way that kind of leaves you more uncomfortable and gets you out of that middle. It might mean, for you financially, a great example that's worked really well for me, go and invest an above average amount that feels a little uncomfortable, and invest it smartly. Do it into the S&P or invest it into even a high yield savings account that you just kind of block out of your mind, that isn't attached to your usual checking accounts. Do an automated investment into those accounts. Get it out of your mind. Make yourself feel like you got less. So therefore, you got to go and get more. For me, again, another huge thing is go and find a coach that's a little bit more expensive than you feel is fully comfortable for you. To know that you're committed to your growth and you now have a sounding board to work through all this stuff with. That's one thing that drastically changed my life. And as a coach, as does every surgeon needs their own surgeon, every therapist needs their own therapist, I think every coach needs their own coach. So now once you create kind of that manufactured discomfort, you design those constraints around you. You need to start building towards a direction, towards a purpose, towards an identity, not just a goal. Because if you're only ever building towards a distant goal in the future, that's all it's going to ever feel like is distant. So you need to build direction, right? Which means you set the goalpost, maybe, sure, that's great. Get clear on that. But now, what are the actual actions? What is that path up the mountain that gets you to that goal? And now focus on that process. Don't focus on the outcome, because that process is now. That's today. That's one foot in front of the other. And again, part of that process, that might be investing in yourself before you feel ready, because you are the person that does that versus I want to get to the point of investing in myself. No, you should be doing that now. And that all comes back to making your decisions from the identity that you desire and that you're in the process of becoming, and choosing that is your identity now. Therefore, you act in accordance with that identity now, and not the one that you might tell yourself you already have but are working away from. The language needs to change first. The identity shifts first, and then the actions follow as a result of staying true to who you are. If I said, hey, you can't smoke cigarettes for the next 30 days, I'm guessing most of you guys don't smoke cigarettes, that would be pretty simple for you because you're not a smoker. You don't do those things. That's the importance of identity. And so with this, I can't reinforce it enough. The biggest trap of being in that middle is thinking that you need more motivation and that it's just going to come from somewhere. Well, motivation only comes through action. and the built-in confidence that comes through those actions to know and have that conviction that you're good at what you just did and that you can do it again. That's what builds the motivation loop. And at that point, it becomes powerful. But that does take some discipline. So in order to build that motivation, you need the identity pressure, that feeling like this needs to change now, therefore it does. You need the clarity. You need the direction. You need the internal alignment. So if you've now made it to the end of this video and you're feeling ready to break out of the middle, you want to take 2026 by storm and finally stop dragging your feet financially, emotionally, physically, professionally, whatever it is for you, then you're the exact person that I want to be able to help. And it's exactly what I help entrepreneurs and particularly sales professionals with as well inside my Clarity Code program. I've built a complete operating system for your identity, your clarity, your environment, your performance that helps you become the person that you know you're capable of becoming. So if you want the full breakdown, if you want to see that it's a fit and you want some help being that version of yourself today, then go ahead and click the link in the description, fill out the type form, and we can jump on a clarity call to get an understanding of where you're at and if we're a good fit for each other. You can also follow me on Instagram at Jesse H. Hoffman. You can DM me clarity there at any time, interact with some of my content there, watch my other videos. If you found this valuable, again, give it a like, subscribe, leave some comments below what specifically resonated for you, and share a few things. What parts of you do you feel are stuck in the middle? And I'd love to help you out. So with that being said, crush the rest of this year. I got a few more videos coming out that I'm sure you'll love. If you like this one, talk to you later. Peace.